Hello everyone, it's Trophy Steffi and welcome to this live Q&A and discussion about what I eat in a day. Am I now eating more protein? How much protein am I eating? I am eating a starch-based diet and I want to talk to you about what I'm eating these days because my menu has shifted a little bit over the years. And I also want to be connecting with you live here and answering any questions you might have. So I will wait until some of you get in on the discussion so you could ask me some questions. But I'm so happy you're here joining me, and I'm having a carb shake, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. It is Thursday. It's a beautiful day. It is in the Pacific Standard Time zone. It's about 2:20, and I just decided to go live spontaneously to talk about my starch-based diet. So thank you for your patience. If you didn't catch this live, go ahead and leave any questions you might have down in the description box below. And yeah, I'm very excited to talk about my menu. I am not considering myself an expert when it comes to diet or nutrition. I'm not a nutritionist, and this video isn't intended to give advice. It's just intended to share what I eat and my experience with the foods that I choose. And that's very important to some of you. Some of you are, wanting to know what we eat. My twin sister Sally and I were the rebounding instructors here on this channel. A lot of you are interested in what we eat, and so that's what this video is for. And I'm gonna see about connecting to the video here live so I can answer your questions. So leave your comments in the comment section. If you are here live with me, let me know. What's the weather like in your neck of the woods? I would love to know. It's kind of rainy but sunny. It's beautiful here. Here we go.
The Wonder Oven Pro.
Okay, well, while we're getting the discussion going, I'm gonna go ahead and actually answer a question I got earlier this week. Someone had asked about our weight loss journey. So when Sally and I switched to a starch-based diet back in 2016, we lost 25 pounds year one. So we switched to the Starch Solution menu by Dr. John McDougall. He is the creator of the starch-based diet. And we were coming from dieting. And I'll just put it that way. We were coming from dieting. And in 2016, we swapped in the Starch Solution, or a starch-based diet. And a starch-based diet is essentially focused on starches, which predominantly are whole grains and potatoes. And because the menu was based on starches, that means that, per calorie, or like when you're plating up or looking at all the foods throughout the day, the majority of the calories, maybe 60 to 70% of the calories, are coming from carbohydrates. So in that case, it's a lower fat diet, and it's maybe a lower protein diet as well, which is what I'm going to talk about here in this live stream today, protein. But because the fat is lower, this this establishes that it's a starch-based diet. And so we were dieting before 2016, and then we switched to a starch-based lower fat diet in 2016, and we shed 25 pounds. And we know that the weight came off because the food, the food, our plate, what we were buying from the grocery store, everything just aligned with a lower calorie menu. And we had come from dieting, which was an unsustainable, roller coaster and journey of calorie inconsistency, too much, too little, too much, too little. So to just fill in the meals throughout the day, and the snacks, and have it be carbohydrate focused, mostly starch focused, and lower fat. This put us into a slight calorie deficit, and we shed 25 pounds year one, which was 2016. Then we got into a 3-year run where we plateaued, and this was because when it comes down to it, we can't just put these starches into our menu and into our daily routine and expect us to just drop all the weight, especially if we really want to get down to a leaner, lower body fat. We can't just replace foods and then expect that these foods get all that weight off. We have to implement food behaviors that really will assist with allowing the body to shed excess. Food behaviors such as how we eat and when we eat. And it's not about the clock, but it's about, just how we strategize eating. And that's what I'm going to be talking about later on, is food prep and how important it is. And so I see you in the chat. Hi, and I'm so happy you're here. So we plateaued for 3 years and about 3.5 years, and then we got inspired. We caught wind of maybe a new formula and a new version, maybe just a more weight loss focused version of a starch-based diet. And so we actually did introduce more vegetables into our menu, and this shed 25 pounds off of our bodies, a second round of 25 pounds each off of our bodies in 6 months. And that 6-month weight loss was a pound a week. And it was very obvious to us that we were shedding weight, because a pound a week might not be an obvious shift, but because if you were to step on the scale every single day and only 1 pound a week is coming off, or on average 1 pound a week is coming off, that's a very slow weight loss. But somehow we just knew, it's like every single day we just knew we weren't gaining. We knew we weren't gaining, and we were maintaining. We could have felt like we were maintaining, but we just knew we were losing. And it was because, I'd say, I'm just going to throw out a percentage that's a rough estimate, but I'd say 25% of our food intake was veggies, like zucchini and cucumber and lettuce and broccoli and tomatoes, or we weren't really eating like spinach or cabbage. Sometimes we would steam up cabbage, but mainly zucchini and cucumber. So I'll just say this, I'll just throw this in there. If you are looking to lose weight, my first tip for this video is having like 2 or 3 cucumber in the fridge, and then having like a half a cucumber with lunch and a half or a small wedge of lettuce with dinner. This can make a huge difference, because hydration plays a big role with weight loss. And lightening up the food in order to allow your body to burn off excess, that is part of the equation. It's just part of the process, in my opinion. So when we got that second 25 pounds off, we were both 50 pounds down, and we felt great and we looked great. And we had a journey beyond that, because that was at the end of 2020 when we had lost that second 25 pounds. And we certainly have had a journey ever since then. It's been 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. It's been 5.5 years where we're maintaining / just ebbing and flowing with this weight off. And I'm not gonna tell you that I got 50 pounds down and then I just was within a pound in the last 5 years. That's not at all how it's gone. And there's been a little bit of a experimentation and exploration, allowing weight to come back on, desiring it to come back off and like up and down a little bit, hormones shift and exercise shifts and, just desires to try new things. Experimentation comes into the equation. So over the years, we've just done a little bit of a wave, but it's felt good because we've been staying in our weight range, basically within 10 pounds of our lowest weight. We're 5'7". When I say we, I'm referring to my twin sister and I'm Stephanie. Her name is Sally. And we're 5'7", and our weight range, I'd say, is between 123 and 133. And so if this weight range, we probably got down into the lower 120s, which was very low weight for us. And then the low 130s would be our higher weight, or, mid-low 130s. And we fluctuated in that range. So when we were dropping weight, I'll now start talking about protein, and I want to talk about what I'm eating now. When we were shifting weight, we didn't really think much about protein. I think we did end up having protein in the forms of tofu and whole grains, such as breads and, like proteins coming from whole grain bread and whole grain pasta, which whole grain pasta and bread are they're sufficient in protein. They're not high in protein, but they're sufficient in protein. And tofu, I remember having a lot of tofu in year one, but there was protein there present in year 5 when we shed that last 25 pounds. But the question that I got last week was, did you have to eat the veg forward starch-based diet, the maximum weight loss program by Dr. John McDougall? Did you have to follow that menu in order to lose the second 25 pounds? And my answer to her was no, we didn't. And the reason why I say no is because it becomes relevant to inquire about what happened the 5 years after those 25 pounds were lost on the maximum weight loss program. It factors in now. It's officially factored in. So, especially with this question. But when it comes to it, if I were to go back to that point where we hadn't lost that 25 pounds and I were to know what I know now, I would have done things differently, because it's possible that that second 25 pounds that we shed and the journey that we went on after those 25 pounds, the journey was the journey was the direct result of what we learned, what we believed, what we implemented, what we put our body through during the maximum weight loss program days, those 6 months. So the reason why I wouldn't do that again is because I believe that with weight loss, it's how we eat, and it's our food behavior that really will make the biggest difference with weight loss. It's what we eat for sure, because we can sabotage ourselves with foods that digest very slow, and we can sabotage ourselves with foods that are very high in calories, like lots of oil, and we are not even realizing that those 300 calories that are the only 300 calories we're eating in the day that are preventing weight loss or causing weight gain. Those are coming from unnecessary oil or hidden calories. So food behavior is ultimately, so I am saying that what we eat is important, but food behavior, in my opinion, is what is the most sound foundation of losing weight and keeping it off, building a new relationship with food. So I'll go ahead and talk about what I'm eating today or these days, and then we'll talk about food behavior and answer a couple more questions. So when I get up in the morning, I've been waking up, doing some breath work. This is my room. I've been doing some breath work, and the breath work has actually made a difference in just my overall stress levels. The breath work has brought my stress levels down. So I do an 11-minute breath work. Sometimes I do it twice, but I don't need to do it twice. I just sometimes have the time or decide to do it twice. But it's an 11-minute box breathing breath work. And what I do is there's like segments where we'll do it like 3 times. The first time we'll just do 4 in, 4 out, 4 in, 4 out. And then the second round we do box breathing. And then the third round we do just longer exhales, and then we do box breathing again. And this is all in 11 minutes. And what I'll do is I'll scale, and I'll do the first section in and out. I'll do 4 and 4. And then the second session, I'll kind of just ignore that she's telling us to inhale, exhale. I'll ignore that, and I'll extend the exhales by, I'll just do like one part inhale, 3-part exhale. And then towards the end with, the third and the fourth segments, I'll be in the 1-part inhale, 3 parts exhale. The reason why this matters is because, first of all, it's improving my fitness. Just this 11-minute breathwork segment, it's improving my fitness. I can basically be without breath, like in an exhale, and all of a sudden I'm like 20 seconds later going, wow, this is really easy for me to just hold breath out of my body. So, and this has, I can feel this and sense this, and I'm experiencing improved fitness from this alone. But then all day long, my stress levels are lower. And this obviously plays a huge role when it comes to hormone balance and eating the appropriate amounts and having really good food behavior. So I'm recommending that. I mean, this isn't a video of any recommendations, but I'm recommending to myself that I stick with this, because I know that a little habit done every single day makes a big difference. And that's what 25 pounds in a year or 25 pounds in 6 months can reflect. A huge transformation with just 1 pound lost in the week, or 2 pounds lost in the month. That's a huge transformation. So a 10-minute breath work every morning, 6 months goes by, a year goes by, and that's a huge transformation. Overall stress could come down so far that we could just be amazed, and maybe even just completely eliminate, for the most part, anxiety. And so I want to keep that up. It's something that I feel I can do in the mornings without question, because I'm not too busy at that time of the day, and I haven't already gotten hyped up by that point. In the morning when I wake up, I'm not already hyped up trying to get the stress levels down. Instead, I'm already calm, and then I go into a deeper state of restoration, and I get the stress just completely rock bottom, and then I don't even elevate into a higher state of stress all day long. So that's my morning routine. And then I'll get up and I'll have about 1 liter of water. And my first snack of the day is a hot drink. I usually have about 16 ounces of hot water, of decaf. It's a French press. So about 16 ounces of decaf French press. And then I'll put in a tablespoon of Majestic Ghirardelli unsweetened cocoa powder. I've had coffee, I've had no coffee, I've had just cocoa and hot water, but I love coffee. It's just a little bit much for my system. So I will stick with the caffeine that I get from the cocoa, and I'll just stick to decaf, and this is like a perfect amount of buzz for me. And I love the morning buzz. So the decaf and the cocoa does me right. And I've been having this for over 10 years. Not necessarily every single day, but I'll have this Majestic cocoa powder. I get this huge can of it. And I have literally been having this cocoa for 10 years. I love it so much. And if I were to be having regular coffee, I could put it in the coffee, and it's a mocha. And a little tiny pinch of salt can make it yum. And if I really want it sweet, I'll add some molasses. Molasses is a wonderful, blackstrap molasses is a wonderful pairing with the cocoa. It's just it's so good. And I'll usually have a little bar with that, like a Bobo's bar, like a PBJ Bobo's bar, or a Nutri-Grain bar, or something random like a small snack. So that's what I do. I'll wake up, I'll have 1 liter of water, and I'll have my hot drink, and then I'll have this snack. And then I'm gonna go to my breakfast. So usually I don't train or jump every single day, but I work around my exercise. Okay, I just have to, well, I guess I'll say that if this snack is enough and I can get into a workout, I will. If it's not enough, I might have something beforehand. It might be a small Rice Krispie treat. It might be a couple of little gummies, or it might be a piece of toast, or half of my breakfast, literally. Or I'll have my full breakfast and then I'll have my training session. And so we all ultimately need to just determine how the food lays out for maximum success. So I may or may not train. And then, so my breakfast has been lately bread or oats. And then I'll usually have a protein, some yogurt, and then some sweet with that. So the bread, I'll usually have like French toast with some yogurt and maple syrup. And if I'm having oats, I'll usually have protein powder with some yogurt and fruit. And that's a really delicious combination. Bread and egg, obviously French toast. And it's whole grain bread. So this is a starch-focused meal. 2 slices of whole grain bread, like Dave's Killer Bread, with 2 egg whites, or 1 egg white, whichever, 2 egg whites, and then a serving of yogurt and a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. This is actually not a high calorie meal. It digests well and it's starch-based. And then the other meal I like to have is oatmeal, and I'll have about, because I know my starch portions. I know what starch portions feel good in my stomach, and that was one thing that when I lost all the weight back in 2016 and 2020, I remember talking to the audience because we were online. I remember telling people that I discovered the starch portions that worked out well for me, because when I switched to a starch-based diet, I'm uncertain of how much starch is the right amount of starch for my body, and what is the right amount of it's the fuel. What is the right amount of fuel to give us the energy we need, but then to help us shed weight? I think that's the biggest question mark in the weight loss community. It's the portions. What's the perfect portion so we don't get ourselves into deep of a calorie deficit and we're not in a calorie surplus. We're kind of like in a maintenance, and we're allowing our bodies to burn off excess energy so we can literally shed weight off. Get it off, get it off, get it off. Not be in a surplus that slows us down and zaps our energy ultimately, and not be in a deficit to the extent where our energy is zapped, our sleep is totally compromised, and we're left with massive hunger, especially after several days. And so it's just a matter of determining that perfect starch portion. So 2 pieces of bread in this breakfast is the spot on amount of starch for me. And then if I'm having oatmeal, I'll have about the similar amount of calories coming from the oats as I would the bread. And on the oats with some protein powder and some yogurt, a serving of yogurt and some fruit, this is a similar portion of calories. It's like around 500, and it's a starch-based menu, but it's got the protein in it. It's not vegan, and it's great. And I am gonna say this: when it comes to the media and influencers out there that are very protein forward, their dialogue is mostly acknowledging protein. It's like that's really the bottom line with their menu dialogue. It's like, as long as I hit my protein, as long as I hit my protein, as long as you hit your protein. It's like it's always about getting people to understand that protein needs are so high. As long as you get your protein, you're gonna be on track. And having just talked about what I eat for my breakfast, there is protein there, but I'd say I know that the majority of the calories, maybe, majority meaning the more than half, 60, 70% are coming from carbohydrates. They're coming from starch. So if you know, if there are influencers out there that are saying, you know, hit your protein needs, and they're you know, they are specifically eating like a meal, let's say it was eggs with yogurt, that's obviously not a starch-based meal, which, you know, they can do them. But I want to acknowledge that, and I'll have to talk about this after I go through what I eat in a day. That menu, or that meal, protein forward dialogue and a protein forward menu is much lower in fiber, and it's much lower in energy. And there's a lot of consequences when it comes to a low fiber menu and a low energy menu. And so we'll talk about that. I need to remember my lunch and dinner. I'm just going to say lunch/dinner, okay? Because then I can get through this. So for lunch/dinner, my favorite two starches, my go-to favorite starches are brown rice and potatoes. Sweet potatoes, I'm liking better than white potatoes right now, but that's just me sharing, you know, where I'm at today. Nothing wrong with white potatoes. I love them. I just think sweet potatoes can take the cake. I have a supplier of purple-skinned white flesh sweet potatoes. They're so good. So brown rice and sweet potatoes. But then I've got some you know, third place, fourth place, fifth place starches, such as whole wheat pasta and bread, tortillas. Any tortilla is fine. I try to get like a wholesome tortilla, and then noodles or refined carbohydrates. So basically brown rice and potatoes, I just want to give them a shout out because potatoes, sweet potatoes especially, they're sweet and they really curb a sweet tooth. And brown rice, I've never experienced a food that has been more supportive and more healthy for my digestion. And white rice does not give me the digestion bulk that I'm looking for. And so I personally gravitate towards a happy digestion serving of brown rice or potatoes at lunch and or dinner. And all these other starches like bread, tortillas, and noodles or white rice can come in also at lunch and dinner in a similar quantity that I can tolerate well. Maybe it's around the 300 to 220 to 350 calorie range. And I think that can be helpful information because when we can narrow it into about what we know works for us into like a calorie range, then we won't get confused. If we're really looking to help our bodies shed weight, we really want to, you know, give our bodies a menu that is going to help us digest well and efficiently. We need to know about the amount of fuel that really works for our stomachs and is satiating. It helps us, you know, we feel satisfied when we're eating, but we're not left hungry and we're not left too full. Okay, I see some questions coming in. I cannot wait to answer them. I can't emphasize enough, especially with the journey that I've had, if I eat too much, if I sit there and eat unconsciously and I get to a point where I've had 5 bites too many, that is, to me, that's not the streamline of getting the weight off. And that's okay because about every day or about every other day, I would experience a meal where I would eat too much. But on the days or weeks when I was on the fast track, I was really paying attention at the end of my meals to not overeat and put too much food in my stomach at once. We need to be intelligent humans, listen to our intelligent body, and ask our body to give us the signals of when we're finished. And not to be the clean plate club unless we've, you know, served ourselves a portion that's the right portion or it's not enough. Then we can be the clean plate club and we can get more if needed. But sometimes just portioning ourselves too much can result in finishing our plate when the digestion only needs so much. And we can just hit that portion to the best of our abilities by listening in, tuning in to our signals to the best of our ability. If we're really trying to lose weight, we have no choice. In my opinion and experience, we have no choice to acknowledge that the signals are there and the signals need to be acknowledged and listened for and honored. We have no choice. We can't do it the other way where we eat unconsciously and we eat too fast and we just keep putting in too much, too much, too much. If we want to lose weight, we have to stop that bad habit. We need to start being more present at the end of our meal and listen for the cues. And I'm going to give you some cues real quick and go back into lunch dinner. The cues would be that the food texture changes or the flavor changes. When we go into a meal, the food tastes dang good. When we are literally, when our tummy and our digestion has said, okay, I'm happy, this is the best portion for me. Like if we were to eat from a buffet and it was unlimited amounts in front of us, we'd have to just figure out the portion that our bodies need. The signal of food texture shifting could be when you take a bite and you're like, I don't have that, how the mouth waters or, kind of virtually waters when we're hungry. It's almost like it's the opposite. It's almost like I can barely swallow this because our digestion, our tongue, our throat, our bodies are telling us no need for more. There's been enough fuel ingested. So the signals of food flavor changing and texture changing, or we're bored from the menu, or maybe if we're intuitive and we're really aligned, maybe something happens in our environment. Like Sally and I will sometimes get a phone call or we'll get interrupted by something or someone, and it's almost like a sign from the universe. Signs happen. Signs like that happen, and we need to be more, aware of that. So pay attention to those signals if you want to start to learn and discover the hunger or the satiation signals that your body intelligently gives you. You get a signal. I know that you might not be in tune with those signals and you might think you don't get those signals, but you do, because your body is just as intelligent as anyone else's, and they are coming. So the starch, brown rice and potatoes, my favorite, but any of the starches work. Bread, tortillas, and noodles. And then protein comes in. So the base is, my preferred portion of starch. And then the portion that I know works for me, maybe the 250 to 350 calorie range. And then the protein comes in, and we could be eating, protein quantities that other influencers are prescribing or recommending, like 4 ounces or 6 ounces or 2 ounces or this many eggs or this much of this. Or we can determine how much we're craving and really put that amount on our plate. That's what I do. I do sometimes just make it easy and like 1 pound, if I have 1 pound of lean beef, I'll cut that into 4. Or if I have a block of tofu, I'll cut that into 4. So I might make things easy and just kind of go by that scale. But I could sometimes just choose what I'm craving in the moment. If it's kind of like a buffet style, I have a food preparation. I just want to, using the eyeballs and connecting with our eyeballs. So starch with a protein, and then of course we can add some veggies. We can add some fats to our cravings, to our needs, and seasonings. And I'll talk about fats real quick, because if the majority of the calories are, if the meal is going to be, say, 500 to 700 calories, depending on how each person eats, I'm not really referring to someone who's having like 1 meal a day or 2 meals a day. I might be talking more to like someone like myself who's eating like around 4 meals a day, maybe with a snack. So if the meal average is about 500 calories and the starch gives me about 250 to 350 calories, then I have the protein come in, and then I have some veggies coming in. And then when I add fats, I just add I don't know, maybe like 100 calories of fats or something. And then the fats will give me the satisfaction and the satiation, the comfort that I need. It'll make the food really desirable, and it'll help me to want to stay on the track of eating this type of way, because without the fats, then it's too lean and it doesn't last long enough in my body. And this is how I would have eaten differently had I gone back and hadn't lost that last 25 pounds. I would have added some in. I would have definitely added in more veggies, but I would have added in more fats, and I would have practiced better food behavior. So basically, lunches and dinners have that starch, have that smaller craving amount of portion of protein, and then some veg. I'd say put some veg on your plate. My 2 top favorite veggies. Ready? 2 top favorite veggies: peas and corn. And these are higher starch veggies, which I stand behind because our bodies are looking for energy and our bodies are looking for fiber. And if my menu is based on potatoes and brown rice, and there's oats in there, there's bread in there, there's pasta, and then there's corn and peas and noodles once in a while for sure, tortillas, beans. My digestion is running smoothly, and my digestion is bulky, and the bowel movements are awesome. They're awesome, and this matters to me. This matters when it comes to weight loss, in my opinion. Having a nice bowel movement each day, or if I usually just go once, like it's a bigger one once, but some people go several times a day, and I'm not here to say one way is better than the other. To go several times a day or once a day, or every single day is not necessary. Once in a while I won't go for a day or two, very, very rarely, and then it'll all just catch up. It's just a little it's a little traffic in there, and that's totally normal, and that's fine. But these starch-based, starch-forward foods are high energy, and they have fiber, and they're hydrating too, because they're carbohydrates. They're more hydrating to the body. Snacks, carb shake. So I'm just going to talk about snacks real quick. The reason why this is a carb shake is because I did the calculation, and this has more carbohydrates than it does protein. This would be about 70% carbohydrates, 30% protein, and 10% fat. It's milk with protein powder and a banana, almond milk. So I could call it a protein shake because it's got a scoop of protein powder in it, but it's actually a carb shake. It's a carb-based snack. It's a carb-based meal. So I stand behind this as a snack. And my favorite other snacks are a small, I shouldn't say small, but cereal can be sometimes where, cereal goes, we can connect it to our childhood, or, eat a lot. So just a small bowl of whole grain cereal like grape nuts or shredded wheat or something like that, a wonderful starch forward snack. And we could have a packet of ramen as a snack, or like a two piece of bread sandwich with some butter, like a little bit of butter and jam. It still keeps the meal starch based. So basically, if you want to do calculations, you could, but starch based is really easy. And I think that it's important to have starch based snacks as well, because I see influencers suggest, have a yogurt with protein powder in it, and maybe some like chopped apples and like chia seeds, and this is your protein forward snack. And this is a low fiber snack. Well, I mean, chia seeds might be kind of high fiber, but this is a lower naturally occurring lower fiber snack, and it's not a naturally occurring energetic snack, because protein isn't essentially, it's not a component that we ingest that breaks down into energy. It breaks down into building blocks, and then we eliminate, the excess or store it. So it doesn't actually give us energy, and it's so important for us to be eating energy when we eat. So I'll talk about that real quick. With the starch-based menu, it's a energy. it's a higher energy menu. So when we want to, you know, do our work, do our workouts, sleep hard, have quality relationships and discussions with people, and we even want to have a quality meditation session and all these things. We want to be energized. We don't want to be lacking and just like on empty and feeling fatigued. We want to be having that energy so we can maximize our efforts, our form when we're in our fitness, our stress levels, like our, you know, our peaceful and kind and listening ear, our understanding selves. We want to be our best, most calm, most present selves in our conversations. When we go to sleep at night, we want to really get into that restorative sleep, and it's like quality over quantity. We want to have quality conversations. We want to have quality workouts. We want to have quality sleep. We want to have quality, you know, conversations and do our job with our highest quality state of mind. And this is what we get when we are eating more so of a starch, when I'm eating more so of a starch-based menu. And this I expend the amount, it's like energy expenditure meets your carbohydrates. So consuming carbohydrates will bring up energy expenditure. So it's almost like they become equal. So we don't have to believe or fear that if the carbohydrates are higher, that energy expenditure will still be low. So now what does that equate to? Weight gain, energy expender and quality, energy expending and quality of life and quality of our energy will rise to the occasion, to the starch occasion, to the carbohydrate occasion. And so now we have a higher quality of life. We're ingesting starches, we're ingesting a higher carbohydrate, a higher hydrated menu. We have better bowel movements, better digestion, better elimination. And if we are nailing our happy place with quantities, then this high energy, high quality, high hydrated menu will equate to something, a reaction of the body that is much different than what we were doing before that wasn't working. I believe if we can find ourselves taking time to, or just jumping into and adapting to a more higher starch or fiber, starch, fiber, and the proteins are connected to these starches as well. And we do have some protein coming in for sure. And we just acknowledge it. We don't, this is me speaking for myself, to myself. We're not on a low protein diet. We're not on a high protein diet. We're not a vegan. We don't need to be vegan. We can be for sure. We don't need to, be any label except for we can hope that the menu or the meal we're consuming has enough starches, has enough carbohydrates from starches that it satiates us, it gives us that energy we're looking for, and then it continues to give us and supplement us the fiber and the digestion bulk that we need to have that healthy elimination. So I wanted to say too that, okay, so I'm going to talk about food prep next, and I'm going to get into the questions now. And then I'm going to talk about food prep and why I feel like food prep could be the missing link, because, and I'll ask this question, and you can think about this or ponder this. Do you know anyone, especially in their 40s or 50s, do you know anyone that lives in a very lean, trim body? Like maybe if you're looking to be lean, the body that you want, the body that you think is just so cool, so awesome, so lean and healthy, hopefully lean. Do you know of anyone that's in their 40s or 50s or older that's lean, that wings it with their food, maybe you do. And you could leave a comment down in the comment section of this person, or you could tell me in the comment section now. I can't think of a single person who's winging it and is as lean as I want to be. You know, I want to be year round. I want to be pretty lean. I like being lean. I mean, like this. To me, this is lean. I can't think of anyone that I know of that isn't strategizing with their food, with their menu on some level that stays lean. If I don't know of anybody that's completely winging it. And so I ask you that too. Do you know of anybody that's winging it? So when it comes to food prep, I think it might be a hack, a super hack, if we can learn and understand food prep and then maybe potentially create a new habit of food prepping. It could be the game changer, the difference between being a strategic lean eater or someone who's winging it, who may forever struggle because winging it doesn't work. It's because I can't think of anyone who wings it and is lean, and I need to say healthy too, like feeling good and is healthy, not just lean and, you know, it's temporary because they're cheating in some way. So insulin resistance is very important to determine how one responds to starchy carb heavy meals. Insulin resistance. It's true. Referring to the age-old 30% protein, 30 fat, 40 wholesome carbs, more or less. So I am not a nutritionist, nor am I a doctor or anything like that. All I know is that I used to be 180 pounds. That was me, 180 pounds. And I'm certain I had insulin resistance at that time in my life. And I didn't necessarily decide that insulin resistance was going to be, you know, I didn't think about it like this, but the reality is that it didn't end up being my permanent future. It ended up being the past, and I shifted, and now I'm no longer insulin resistant. That's not, you know, that can't be everyone's future reality, that they shift from insulin resistance. But I know that some of these menopause experts and insulin resistant experts will tailor a more balanced menu or a protein forward menu around someone with insulin resistance. And they will literally be, they've created a menu that protects insulin resistance, in my opinion, which isn't fixing the root cause of insulin resistance. It's tailoring to it, which can make people feel really good and make people and help people to shed weight. But I don't think that it's going to end up curing or reversing insulin resistance. And when it comes to insulin resistance, please Google search Dr. John McDougall and insulin resistance. Google search plant-based doctors and insulin resistance, because that's what this menu is really achieving. Is it's taking the macros, the macronutrients, carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, and it's establishing them in ratios that will help us to lower insulin resistance and potentially reverse it. And yeah, I know that I feel my body will resist high fat intake with high carbohydrate intake. I can feel my body resist. I can feel that. That's a feeling. That's how I would describe that feeling. When I eat a high fat, high carbohydrate diet, it's almost like my body resists it. But when I have the lower fat and the higher carbohydrate, my body allows and accepts it. And I'll bet, you know, for someone who is insulin resistant, I'll bet that if they had a higher fat menu and a lower starch menu, their body would allow that and accept that. But then if their starches come up too high and they're still eating the high fat, then their body will resist it. So their body is going to resist starch heavy meals because the overall fat in the menu is high. And so there's obviously a transition of adaptation that's necessary when it comes to, you know, making those permanent long-term changes. But refer to the plant-based doctors if you're looking for science and information discussing insulin resistance and how to reverse it. Type 2 diabetes, as far as I'm concerned, is reversible when we can switch to a plant-based, starch-forward, lower fat menu. And insulin resistance does not have to be the permanent long-term future if we can monitor the macros coming in that are stabilizing our blood sugars, whether it be predominantly eating starches and eating lower fat, or the other way around, predominantly eating fats or eliminating or reducing starches. So do I take supplements now or during weight loss journey? Supplements like ashwagandha, magnesium. I just started taking creatine maybe 3 months ago. B12 and protein powder wasn't really in the mix a whole lot until like as of recently, which I like protein powder. I think a little protein powder can go a long way, but otherwise, no other supplements that I can think of. Just B12, magnesium, and vitamin D and creatine as of late. So I'm 49 and losing muscle, and indeed need to lose weight. I need to lose weight and get tight. I'm so glad I caught your live. I'm so glad you did too, Karen. Yes, I want to be lean. I'm 71 years old and have weighed 125 pounds all my life, hereditary. That is lucky, 125, and it is lucky. So what am I drinking? This is 2 cups of almond milk, a scoop of protein powder, and a banana, a big fat frozen banana. So I will say, for those of you who said you want to be lean, I say that you need to decide now, literally start now. You get to do this starting in the next meal, and one day turns into 1 week, turns into 1 month, okay? One literal meal turns into a month. And in a month from now, a long whole month that we get to be present and enjoy our life and enjoy a quality of life. In 1 month from now, you can be leaner. I feel that the one thing that I did that made the biggest difference was at the end of the meal, I chose to tune in, tap in, and turn on to my signals, to my satiation signals. And of course, I prepared a plate where the menu, you know, at the end of the day, whatever you want to eat, put your menu, you know, put the amount of food you typically eat, calories, however you want to quantify it, and just be present until the end of the meal. I could even go as far as saying, this won't necessarily give you maximum health, but I can go as far as saying it doesn't matter what you eat, because if you just don't eat past satiation ever, you probably will start shedding weight fast, and you probably will notice that you're eating a lot less, even eating the exact same foods, if you are maintaining or gaining. Like if you're maintaining a heavier weight or you're gaining, you're just putting in too much. So it's not about having to change what you're eating necessarily. It is, I think, but it's more so about deciding that you're going to be present starting now, starting in your next meal. And one thing you can do as you approach your meal, is decide that chewing each bite is you being present and is acknowledging what you're eating. Chew it. Okay, not 50,000 million times, just chew it, because I know I tucked into a bowl of grape nuts the other day, and I got like halfway through the grape nuts and I was like, I don't know if I've chewed any of these bites. You know when you're in a meditation and it says, start to focus on your breath. Don't change anything about your breath, but just to start focusing on your breath. One time I started just focusing on how much I was chewing without changing anything. And I realized I chewed maybe once or twice into a bite and then swallowed it. There's something emotional connected to swallowing whole. And for me, and when I addressed that, and I just was like, wow, I shouldn't be doing that. My poor digestion shouldn't have to deal with that. When I started addressing that and I slowed down, I realized I was faced with emotion. I was faced with patience. I was faced with my emotional attachment to swallowing food whole. So chewing can be a huge game changer. So chewing from the start and then connecting to signals at the end of the meal to the best of the ability, and know that every meal will get us one step closer, one meal more experienced to listening and learning our signals. Because if you don't learn them, meal one, meal two, don't think that they're never gonna appear. They will. They'll appear, especially when you say, I need to think about this. I need to really pay attention. And yeah, we could be super distracted. It's almost like if you can acknowledge to yourself once and for all, I am always distracted when I eat. I always chew my food, or I always swallow my food whole. I'm always distracted, and I always eat, fast food, junk food, whatever. If these three things are like yes, 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 I'm willing to finally admit to myself that these are true, then you might be actually in the best position possible to lose weight, because those are the things you need to address. And you don't need to necessarily go hardcore on changing your diet. You just need to chew better, watch for your cues, and then notice that you're gonna, maybe stick around for listening to what I have to say about food prepping. And if you are eating specific foods that'll really take care of your health and digestion and energy and hydration, and you can chew it and you can watch for your satiation signals, eating the right things, chewing and satiation signals, these three things might be the 1 to 2 pounds a week lost. And in 15 weeks from now, you could be 30 pounds lighter. In a year from now, you could be 50 to 75 pounds lighter if you decided to make that change, where even if you're out having pizza with your girlfriends or boyfriends, or you're out having, it's a struggle to talk about if alcohol is involved, because that's when inhibitions can bye-bye. But if we can make those commitments to ourselves to chew better and to watch for those cues, and then to do some meal prepping, we could make the biggest transformation ever. And let me tell you this right now, 1 year from now, when all that weight's gone, potentially 1 year from now, maybe after that year, you don't have to pay as close of attention to chewing. You don't have to pay as close of attention to what you eat. You don't have to pay as close of attention to your signals, because you're gonna have a year of experience, and you're gonna know yourself so well that you can ebb and flow in a weight range, and you can just tune in or turn up the dial to your signals connections or your chewing when you know your pants are getting a little tight and you need to drop a few pounds. Or you can turn in and tap in and tune on when you're noticing summer's coming and you want to just be a little leaner or something like that, which is what I'm doing right now. I know that my weight can fluctuate, and I don't know how much weight is going to come off the scale, but that's my goal. And it is about, getting a little bit leaner, but it's also just about keeping myself up to speed with with chewing, because that I can fall out of that habit so easily. It's so important to always be in tune with chewing and our signals. So food prepping. So I asked a question earlier, do you know anyone, especially in their 40s or 50s, who is lean and who is winging it when it comes to eating? I don't know anyone that's winging it, just completely winging it. And the reason why I don't know anyone is because winging it will always equate to eating fast food, eating way more salt, eating way more of the wrong macro. If we're on a low fat, lower fat diet, winging it means much higher fat intake. And if we're on a low carb diet, high fat diet, winging it means starches or carbohydrates find their way in. Am I right or am I right? Winging it is like guaranteed we're going to blow it. So strategizing with food prep, if we could really understand how important it is for us to food prep, it could be the game changer for us to just get the food prepped and to get the meals locked in so we love and enjoy the meals, and we can finally not necessarily identify with the community where, you know, they're eating out of Tupperware and they're eating, restricting their foods. Let's not look at it like that. Let's look at it like, if we are winging it, we're eating fast food, we're eating junk food, we're eating processed foods. That is that's a guarantee. It's a guarantee that if we wing it, we end up eating the frozen foods or eating the fast foods. If we prepare foods ahead of time and we have them prepared, it's almost like we have our mom doing it for us or something like that. You know, when we were a kid, our mom or our dad would, or our, you know, our guardian would prepare food. It's like their main job. We as adults need to step into that role and start preparing food. So as a kid, as a childlike self, we show up to our fridge and there's food prepared. Because if there's no food in the fridge, what do? We need to call Uber Eats, or we need to get in the car and drive somewhere that will provide us with food. Maybe it's going to the grocery store, but what we really ideally have is food prepared in our fridge. And we don't need to associate it with, like, because I want to say that again, we don't need to associate it with, like, you know, with bodybuilders or something like that, because that, you know, that's kind of like not the point. Their food prepping is for a different goal, even though it's exactly the same goal. It's to lose weight. It's like food prep, literally called prep for a bodybuilder, is to lose weight. So go ahead and align, you know, connect those dots. But we're just, you know, your mother wouldn't say, I'm prepping you food for you to lose weight. As a child, it's, I'm prepping you food to eat, to be nourished, to be healthy, so you can, you know, be happy and fed and energetic and healthy. So that's what we're going to connect it to. But food prep in a weight loss journey is crucial and it's vital, because otherwise we're not as much on a streamlined weight loss journey as if we're not prepping the food, we're not on a streamlined weight loss journey. Don't we want to lose the weight streamlined? Don't we want to get that first pound or 2 pounds off and then keep losing weight? That's what a streamlined weight loss journey looks like, rather than this gain, lose, and, you know, plateau some more. We want to be streamlined, losing weight to the very best of our ability. Food prepping, having that food prepared, is going to be a super game changer with making our weight loss journey streamlined. And hydration will play a role too. Streamlined, because if we get all of a sudden chronically dehydrated, that's when we can get that traffic going that I talked about earlier, that I've experienced before. It's like alcohol can make me backed up, and very, very high salt can make me backed up. Stress or a bad night's sleep can make me backed up. And these things can factor into our digestion and not necessarily sabotage our goals, because if we're on a streamlined weight loss journey and we're losing weight every week, we can lose a night, we can, you know, have poor sleep for a night without stressing. Like, don't ever let a poor night's sleep be something that, you know, translates to your body and your mind as, I'm off track. It's like, no, I'm not off track. I just got a bad night's sleep. Or I didn't go to the bathroom today. Number 2, I'm not off track. I'm not gaining. It's just sitting in there. It's just still sitting in there, and it'll come out. But ideally, we've got a streamline, and, you know, we have a streamlined experience going on. And hydration is part of the equation. That's why we like carbohydrate focused, or, you know, starch-based a starch-based diet, a starch-based menu, starch-based food, because these are starch, aka carbohydrate-based food, hydration for the body. So I'm just going to talk about food prepping and see if there's any more questions. Food prepping is strategically giving us access to fast food that isn't typical fast food. And I wanted to say too that let's stop calling it fast food, because maybe we should start to just think of food as, even if it is fast food, maybe we should start to think of it as not a fast experience. We should slow down when we eat a little bit. So depending on if you are considering eating a starch-based diet, and you've heard what I have to say about my approach. If you were to go read Dr. John McDougall's The Starch Solution or his book Maximum Weight Loss Program, he's that's vegan forward, and I don't agree with vegan forward, not because I think that being vegan is unhealthy, but I just don't feel like it's necessary for excellent health. And whether we're healthier if we're vegan or not, that's too much for my brain. I just know that I can be as healthy as I want to be, and I can incorporate animal proteins and dairy and oils and refined carbohydrates into my menu and feel healthy and feel good and feel energetic. And IJUMPINSTEAD, and that can play a role too with how efficient our bodies work. So depending on how am I going to tell you how to food prep, ultimately, no matter what you're eating, I'll just say that, no matter what you're eating, go for the fuel source. If it is starches, brown rice, if you don't have a rice cooker, just grab one. Check Marketplace, Facebook Marketplace, or go to Costco, or I don't know if I don't think they're more than $100 or something like that. Grab a good quality rice cooker, because this is just rice. Like brown rice is, you can cook it on the stove, but it's a game changer, because it's like food prep heaven. It's so easy to have brown rice cooked. Sally and I both love brown rice, and we stand behind it. And it's coming into our diet all the time. That and whole grain bread and potatoes, I'd say, are our top 3 starches. So having that whole grain bread on hand, having the brown rice cooked, and having some potatoes cooked as well. So I think you guys can all get the picture of what it really looks like to prepare food ahead of time. Get the food established, the food that you want to eat. In my case, it's brown rice, potatoes, whole grain bread. I'll have some tortillas in the fridge, and I'll have some Koyo, K-O-Y-O ramen, K-O-Y-O ramen noodles. These are not oil-ridden top ramen noodles. They're just a packet of ramen noodles without the oil, because we've eventually figured out that top ramen is full of oil, like whoa. So brown rice, potatoes, whole grain bread, tortillas, and noodles and then canned beans could be considered starch, but I have them in my protein list. Preparing tofu ahead of time. However you might learn how to prepare your tofu, or you don't like tofu, who knows? Meat, it could just be meat that you're eating, or it could just be beans, and you might be having tofu. Preparing it ahead of time, getting the food in the fridge. So just like you are taking care of yourself as a guardian, as you're taking care of your childlike self, if that's one way to put it, get the food prepared. Even if you do want to put it in Tupperwares, and get your food, get your meal ready to go, and eat it right when you're ready for it, and pay attention to chewing, and pay attention to the end of the meal, and whether or not you need more or less than what you've portioned yourself out with, or exactly what you portioned yourself out with. So whatever proteins you prefer. There's also yogurt and cottage cheese I consider to be in the protein list. And I will say from my own experience that I am thumbs up to yogurt and cottage cheese, but when it comes to a snack, I'm gonna make sure that my snack choice, for the most part, 99 out of 100 times, the snack is starch forward, and it's not just like a bowl of cottage cheese for a snack or a bowl of yogurt for a snack. It's yogurt and cottage cheese are used as a protein source, but not as the base of a meal source. And then for veggies, frozen corn and frozen peas, prepped ahead of time. Right now I'm on a corn on the cob phase. I'm in a corn on the cob phase. I'm getting corn on the cob, and I boil one for 5 minutes. And oh my gosh, I love corn on the cob so much right now. And I will put a little bit of butter on my corn on the cob. Corn and peas are my top veggies. And if we are in a weight loss journey, which I don't need it, to just lose 3 pounds for the summer, maybe 5. I don't think that I will take this advice I'm about to give you, but if you are someone that's looking to lose more weight on this journey, you can eat, what you know you need to eat and what you want to eat, and it could be what I'm sharing as far as some, generally speaking. But I do think that adding in a little bit of those more hydrating vegetables to your menu is going to bump up hydration, because maybe, in my belief, if you're holding on to excess weight, or you're maintaining or gaining, or you're holding on to excess weight, you might need a little bit of hydration support. So cucumber, lettuce, like a quarter head of lettuce or a half of a cucumber or an entire cucumber, or maybe some steamed zucchini, veggies that have a high water content. These are going to be maybe the best form of hydration besides drinking your quota of water every day. They're going to be the second best thing that's going to get hydration into your cells in the most efficient way. So consider that hydration boost coming from it. Get your heads of lettuce, eat a quarter of a head every single day. Do your body that good. Give your body that boost of the hydration. And cucumbers are awesome too. When it comes to fats, I like, a teaspoon, 2 teaspoons, maybe a tablespoon of oil at the very most. And that is not going to break the calorie bank. When we go 2-3 tablespoons of oil, we might be breaking the calorie bank as far as just total overall calories. But if we can just give ourselves a teaspoon of butter, 2 teaspoons of butter, or a small portion of, like 1 serving of cheese, or a half a serving of cheese, maybe a half an avocado, or a quarter of avocado, or a sprinkle of seeds, or whatever. I agree with the fats. I think that if we have our starch portion locked in, and we have our protein portion locked in, and we can have a little bit of fats, I think that the total calories and the amount of satiation and satisfaction we get from the meal is going to lead us on a successful journey of feeling happy, of feeling healthy, of feeling connected emotionally to the quantities in a positive way, rather than feeling emotionally depressed from eating too much. We want to feel emotionally happy from the quantities we're eating. And if the fats are void, or if we're void of some of the more indulgent foods, we may not have that happiness towards our food, and this could cause us to overeat at another point at the end of the week, or at the end of the day, or whatever. So really making each meal quality is going to make a huge difference. And then I will talk about fruits real quick. I think that the fruits can come in. I talked about oatmeal, having some fruit on oatmeal. I think that's great. Maybe a banana on oatmeal, or maybe you have a little portion of cereal for an afternoon snack, and you have like Raisin Bran or grape nuts or shredded wheat or something like that, and a little banana on top of it, or half a banana or something. I love that. Or maybe some fresh fruit, some fresh berries. I think that fruit is great. I just don't think that it's, coming from the world I came from, the high carbohydrate movement, I don't think that fruit is, I think it serves its purpose. It serves its nutritional purpose, but I don't think it's serving a base of calories purpose in my experience. It's sweet and it's wonderful. It digests at such a different rate than the rest of the foods that I've listed, proteins and starches. It digests so much faster that it can go in there and it can kind of break up that streamline digestion experience, that streamlined energy experience. If you were to just do like an all fruit focused menu, that's a whole different story. And there's other influencers out there that talk about that. But when it comes to a starch-based diet, the fruit can't come in high abundance in my experience. It needs to be more so like veggies or protein and some veggies and some fats. And then the fruit is kind of like the little topping here and there. And on occasion, Sally and I are known to be like, I don't know what to eat for dinner. It's a random Wednesday and on a random, day in the year. And I'm just going to go ahead and have a fruit dinner because there's just like nothing else that sounds good. And we're not avoiders of anything. We're willing to go with the flow and to allow an intuition moment to happen and see what happens. It's always good to just be open-minded and allow an experience to come in and say, you know what, I need to do this because I haven't done it before. I need to try it now. I need to get the experience under my belt. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try having banana and ice cream for dinner just to see how it feels. And, maybe it works out on this day. And then the next time you do it, it doesn't work out. And then you got this comparison and you've learned and just getting more experienced and getting more tuned in to your dream results, your dream body, and maintaining it because you're so well versed in your own cravings and your own day-to-day experience and what you like and what feels good. And so the last thing I'll say too with that is when it comes to timing and how we eat, what we and food prep, why food prep comes in so handy is because when we're fed all day long and we don't let ourselves get too hungry. I'm getting a little hungry actually. When we push a meal off too long, we can dip and get ourselves into a higher stressed state. And then this could lead to overeating in the next meal. And it can lead to, potentially not having had enough food by the end of the day. This can play a huge role. This can be the ultimate make or break when it comes to that streamlined experience. So pushing food off can be the straw that breaks the camel's back every single day. If we keep pushing food off, we notice we get hungry. We notice our body says, it's watering, my mouth is watering for food. If food sounds really good. We need to put food in and trust that is our body giving us a clear signal that it's time to eat. And if we can eat the foods especially that we love and we want to eat, then we know that feels good in our bodies, and we can get these foods in right when we're hungry, even a minute before as opposed to a minute late. We know food. There have been times where I do need to eat like 10 minutes or half an hour sooner than I would typically eat. And those days maybe even work out better than the days where I just wait till like that normal time that I'm hungry. Getting in food, not all day long, and I'm not talking about eating when we're not hungry or we're eating on a full stomach. I mean, just noticing that I could put food in right now. Typically I have lunch around 1, but let's get this show on the road. This does not equate to more excess calories consumed in the day. It just equates to getting the food in all day long. And by the end of the day, we've eaten our quota and we feel good and we can sleep hard. I don't necessarily prescribe to having a huge period of time before I go to sleep without food. Everybody's different, and some people might experience a better sleep if they stop eating after, by a certain point. I like to eat closer to bed, like around the 7:30, 8 o'clock hour, and I'm usually going to bed around 9:30. But getting in, but not waiting, not pushing meals off, and figuring out our own eating timing. That's really something that is personal, and is something that we can discover based on, I think, intuition. I mean, I think that we can all kind of know right away. You ask yourselves, how do I feel I need to lay out my food in the day? Maybe Sally and I even have like a different process of meal timing and how to approach food, because it's a very individual experience. So whatever you feel is intuitive, do that. Make adjustments as you go. If you need to, don't make adjustments if it's working for you. And yeah, food prepping will help. Hydration, no matter what you're eating, cueing into those signals at the end of the meal, and chewing a little bit better or a lot better. It's going to be big time game changers. So let's do it. Let's get ready for summer or the next season. Let's choose that the very next meal we're going to be more present, and we're going to connect to our body in the present moment. And even if we are distracted while we're eating, we can still chew. We can still at least remember that chewing is that chewing needs to happen. Even if we're watching TV or we're on our phone, just try to remember to chew. If you have to put up a piece of paper, no shame at all in putting up a piece of paper on your wall in front of where you typically eat that reminds you to chew. No shame. Take it down after a week in case anybody gets annoyed with it. Remind yourself to chew, and to slow down, because this could be the one thing that you need to do to start really feeling super energized and light, and connecting to your progress, your goal, if you have a goal to lose weight. So I lost muscle when I didn't prioritize protein. Healthy fats support women's hormones too. You don't need loads of oils. Balance works. So yeah, not having enough protein. That must have looked like severely low protein then, because I think what I'm learning, listening to all the podcasts I've learned that it's like 0.6 grams of protein per kilogram is enough to maintain and preserve muscle. So I did my math at 130 pounds, and it's like a measly 50 or 60 grams of protein in the day that I need to eat in order to preserve my muscle. So if you were losing muscle, then you needed to prioritize protein, dare I say you were eating like less than that, like less than 60 grams. I don't know. I'm not a protein expert. I do eat probably closer to like 80 grams or 100 grams in a day, and I like that. And I don't know if I ever lost muscle when I was eating a lower protein diet. I still was able to preserve muscle. As far as I'm concerned, I don't know, but I think that it's true that there are circumstances on many different levels where we can lose muscle, and we need to increase protein. We need to switch up our macros. We need to optimize the intake in order to prevent muscle loss and to balance blood sugar. I mean, there's lots of different factors when it comes to losing weight. Or losing muscle. It's not just low protein. It's why the body is it could be calorie insufficiency. It could be hormonal, a shifting happening. So lots of different factors. This was fun. It's been almost an hour and a half, and I will cut it right there because I know a lot of you are enjoying this information, but I'm taking up your time, and consolidating it is my goal for the next time I come live and do this, do a what I eat in a day update for you. And I will, and Sally will too. I'm sure Sally will get on here soon and talk about her menu update, and it's been really fun. I'm gonna go have my late lunch, I'm gonna have a corn on the cob, I'm gonna have sweet potatoes, and I'm gonna have tofu, and I'm gonna have some butter on my corn, and that is my lunch plan for today. And I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, I always appreciate that you give any of our videos here on this channel a like. And if you are looking for more diet information, go to our playlist section into the podcasts and question and answers, and there's more diet content in that playlist, a lot more diet content, and this video will be in that playlist as well. And make sure to jump in on the fun and most efficient and powerful workouts online, in our opinion, and that is rebounding, and we're instructors here on this channel, and rebounding is so fun and efficient, and we enjoy it, and I can't wait to get on here again and answer more of your questions about rebounding and everything that we continue to learn and discover about rebounding by the day, by the minute, by the hour. It's nothing less than so mind-blowing, so profound, and life-changing. Rebounding is the answer in our experience. Thanks so much for watching, and cannot wait to see you in the next one. Have a fantastic rest of your day.